What's up, everyone? You're listening to Bring the Heavy with Curt and Evan, your all-access pass to the behind-the-scenes of the scene. We're here to celebrate the history and evolution of deathcore and some of the heaviest music around with the people that made it happen. I'm one of your hosts, Curt.
And I'm your other host, Evan. For anyone that might not know, I used to tour with metal bands. I have an Instagram account, at IDW Museum, that's a look back at the 6 years that I spent in the band I Declare War. I'm also posting memories of the time I toured as a guitar tech for Whitechapel and As I Lay Dying. Reminiscing has been a lot of fun, so that kind of inspired this podcast. Curt is one of my best friends, and we have been friends ever since I started touring, so we're here to get some of those same stories from other bands. But first, we're going to talk about what we've been listening to lately. So I have been listening to a ton of the Red Chord.
Can't go wrong with that. Everything, or just like...
Guy posted something about squirrels, and I was like, man, that's so Red Chord. I gotta listen to some Red Chord. And I was blasting Fed Through the Teeth Machine and Pray for Her Eyes.
Those are my two favorites. I was gonna say that I've been listening to that new Suicide Silence album. It's very, very good. That's like the cool thing about this show is I've been getting like reconnected with bands that I haven't really like kept up with. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that album been on repeat for like 3 days ever since I listened to it.
Okay, so today for our second guest, we have someone that I wish I could remember who said this to me for the first time, because I have discovered it to be true ever since. But someone described Fred to me as the nicest guy in metal. And and I have found that to be true ever since we met. And I am very excited to have Fred from Carnifex on today. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks for having me.
I'm trying to think back. I think the original way that I knew who Carnifex was I Declare War was offered a tour with them at some point after Dead in My Arms came out, and we really wanted to do it, but we couldn't because of jobs, and it was so early on in what we were doing that, we really didn't have the resources to do it. So I think that was my kind of introduction to Carnifex.
That 2006, 2007?
That would have been 2007. So Slit Wrist Savior and Lie to My Face definitely would have been the MySpace songs I would have jammed for sure. How about you, Curt?
My history with Carnifex is a little bit embarrassing, so I'm really glad I get to share that.
Can't wait to hear it.
So my friends and I got Dead in My Arms when that came out, and we liked it, but we didn't listen to it much because we thought it sounded like a Suicide Silence ripoff. And then a couple years later, like, we just started hearing Carnifex like everywhere. Like, you guys must have just really started to like gain traction and get like just bigger. And we were like, Carnifex, isn't that Suicide Silence ripoff band? And then we listened to like the next couple albums, and we were like, oh shit, this is really good. We missed out on this for like 4 or 5 years. And then so doing kind of some like research for this, I've been going back and I listened to Dead in My Arms and The Disease and the Poison again, and I don't really know why we thought it was Suicide Silence ripoff, because it doesn't really sound any more like Suicide Silence than any other like deathcore. But then this week was the first time I listened to Graveside Confessions, and it's really, really good. I was like really kind of disappointed that I haven't been keeping up with you guys.
It happens. I'm always curious about that. We had that conversation with somebody where we finally broke down. We're like, why do people think we came after them? Like, we were in the scene at the same time. Mm-hmm. We were in San Diego, and we grew separately, and we didn't meet until Showcase Theater. That was like the in-between area for us. And I can swear, like, when we looked up the dates, Dead in My Arms dropped before The Cleansing dropped. The thing is, they were plugged into the machine already. They are on social media. They had a manager.
Right.
And we had a claw to get any representation. And it really wasn't until after Disease and the Poison drop that we finally got that. And that's why we got on those tours. We're finally on a label, Victory. We were finally with a booking agent. It was at that time, I want to say, it was Artery Foundation. We finally got booking and management. And that's why you started seeing us at the time. But because they blew up first and they got bigger, but we couldn't touch them ever in our span up until like maybe as soon as we got on Nuclear Blast. So that's why we were the Suicide Silence Club, and every deathcore band became the Suicide Silence Club.
Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't shake that, but we carved our own path.
Totally.
Yeah.
I know you weren't there for it, but This City Is Burning records, was that just kind of some guy out of his basement putting records out, and like what was the deal behind that?
I don't know. They told me the story. I think they met the guy in LA. Scott and Sean are the ones that know about it because they were there. And I remember Sean texting me, "Hey, we got signed. Our record's coming out." And what's funny is like they recorded at a studio that I had tracked at before with Sean called Love Juice Labs. I thought that was pretty funny. And then the record came out. I went to FYE and I bought it. I got the Digipack version and I listened to it. I was like, "Hey, congrats," whatever. Took a picture, sent it to him. And they told me that it was this guy in LA, maybe Riverside. I remember the details. And the guy's like, "I want to put your record out." He gave them $600 or they paid $600 for the recording. And he's the one that distributed it. So it was a combination of Uprising Records and This City Is Burning. And one's the imprint and one's the distributor. And then after the first run, it just kind of discontinued. Print anymore.
Yeah.
They also made like jewel case versions for a tour because they were in a hurry. And that's minus one song. These Thoughts Became Cages. So there's kids that have the incomplete record and there's kids that have the full record.
Oh, wow. I bet do those go for pretty good prices on Discogs?
Yeah, exactly. And then he sold his discography to, I want to say Columbia or Sony, because now we can't touch it. Like, we can't reprint that record. Nuclear Blast said if we want to do anything, we could re-record the songs and tag them on albums, and then it makes a live record and re-records, and then we could put it on vinyl. But we can't touch that first one because whoever bought it, they have the rights, and it doesn't push enough units for them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. All this stuff is so sticky and weird. It's so annoying. But tell me about some of your earlier tours. You guys were doing tours with like Emure and Whitechapel. You guys were definitely in that early deathcore original stage. Tell me about some of those earlier tours and how those went.
So I joined November 2007. It was the end of the Dead in My Arms cycle. They had just gotten signed to Victory, and Victory said, "We need a record." So I was making treks from San Diego to Norco, which is Northern Corona, to rehearse with Sean and Scott. And at the time it was Corey, and the new guitar player was Ryan from Legacy Pain. And so once we did that, they had already toured with Whitechapel. They'd already toured with Emure and Unite and Conquer, and I think Recon. They played some shows with Recon. So they did those tours where they were playing VFW halls. I think they played a skate park. I know they played a golf course, like Rec Room area. I thought that was pretty funny with Emure.
We've all played those weird shows.
So then after that, we just started talking to those bands and word of mouth, and we got a handful of booking agents before we got on Artery. So like Ken Moore, we toured with their bands. Then I think his name was Mike Kelly from Texas, and we toured with his bands. Remember Kill Whitney Dead?
Yeah.
We toured with Kill Whitney Dead in the Demonstration. We toured. So when I joined the band, it was With Blood Comes Cleansing, Different Breed of Killer, and then we had to get from the studio in Massachusetts all the way back, and we hopped on a hardcore tour. So it was Since the Flood and Lygia.
Oh yeah.
So those two hardcore bands got us home, and then once Disease dropped, then we hit the ground running. We had a tour. We had to, because like you said, we had to quit our jobs, and it's like we couldn't part time it, so we booked the back to back tours. And
right.
what I made back then was that My brother joined the Marines, and he got deployed to Iraq for 7.5 months, and we were on tour. And so my mom laughed because we both left and came back at the same time. Like I was in the van and then back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We did. Oh, it was Embrace the End, Arsonist Girl, the Girls, Conducting from the Grave. It was all artery bands at the time. So then we did.
Embrace the End was sick.
Oh, they were way sick. I was so stoked. I never heard of them before. We did a Tragic Hero Records tour. So it was us and Stained Glass Romance and Knives Exchanging Hands. That band was badass. And then we got signed for a little bit. The booking agent, John Finberg. And so he threw us on those old school metal tours. So we did a tour with Obituary and Unleashed. We did a tour with Warbringer and Fintroll. So it's kind of like we tested it. It didn't really work. Plus he was ripping us off.
Oh.
At least we got to do those tours. And then we went to Europe for the first time because the booking agent out there, he saw us back to back, our name on all these tours, all these bands he was booking. He listened to the record and he's like, I want to see this band. So he booked us on one of 7. And this was like a stacked lineup. And it was from the top down. Parkway Drive, Unearth, Despised Icon, Protest the Hero, Architects, Whitechapel, and us.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were one of 7. And we did all right. And we got to hang out. That was my first time meeting Whitechapel. And we were just palling around, just like, what the fuck? Like, this is our first time out here, and this is what we're on. This makes sense. Like,
I said something about this in the first episode when we were talking about when I did Mayhem with Whitechapel. It's funny because those tours are like you open them, and which is kind of a bummer, but at the same time you have all that time just to hang out and just chill, and you make so many good friends, and it's such a good time. And that's like almost better than actually performing and doing it every day, is just hanging out with people and just doing those, especially when there's stacked lineups like that.
I get to watch all those bands. We were all finishing record cycles. Every single band had dropped a record and was on the last tour. So it was cool to see that, like, we all slaved it out in the States, then to cap it off out there together.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it well worth it. Like you said, we were just hanging out, selling merch, and just cracking jokes.
That's awesome.
So you've never seen us before then, Curt, right?
No, I haven't. You guys did Summer Slaughter a few times, right?
Yeah. We can't get
And that was always a show that I really wanted to go to, and I just never got a chance to. And I think, like, when it first started, it kind of competed with Sounds of the Underground. So I ended up at Sounds, and then I was always a little bit like, I really liked about half the bands on Summer Slaughter, but then I was like a little bit not into like the super brutal death metal stuff. So I just never ended up going to that. So no, unfortunately, I've never seen you guys.
We never did Mayhem. We have only done Summer Slaughter. We did Warped Tour.
You guys did Warped?
We did Warped in 2017, 2018. I think it was 2017. With Acacia Strain and Emir and more of our friends after the burial.
Oh, wow. That sounds cool. That sounds just like that tour I just saw you guys on. Black Dahlia, After the Burial, you guys. Who else was on that?
I want to say Rivers of Nile.
I think so.
On Death Open.
Yeah. But I was just about to say, you guys, surprising to hear that you were on Warped Tour, but you talked about playing that hardcore tour, and then you're talking about being out with Protest the Hero. How do you guys do with bands that aren't really necessarily your style? Because it seems like you kind of have an audience, like, and that's not in a negative way, you know.
I don't know. At the time, there like you mentioned earlier, the MySpace days. That didn't matter. I think kids just wanted to go to shows.
Totally.
We played tons of VFW halls. We played empty restaurants. We played a Taco Bell on a military base. Anywhere a show could happen, like a backyard. We even played a backyard party on a tour of everyone does a backyard party starting out. But even we were booked on a tour. Like, what the fuck? And so at that point, no one cared. But once you started getting in venues, then people started caring. So all those tours in 2008, all those MySpace dates with the hardcore bands, with deathcore bands, with thrash bands, with death metal bands. No one cared until we were finally on like a legitimate tour, opening up for Obituary and Unleashed. Then it was like the elitist metalheads. Those guys didn't want us. They did not give a fuck. They were there just to see Obituary. Slowly we rot. That's all they wanted to hear. So they're flipping us off, acting like they're giving us the Slayer treatment. And it's like, you guys are fucking dumb. You're so 14. You just discovered death metal. You're flipping me off, dude. Fuck off. And there was a point where some dudes were heckling us in New York, and it got so bad, like they were disruptive, where Ralph Santala was watching us, and he was the lead guitar player that was playing for them. He played for Death too, and he had passed away several years ago. And he was a friend. He became a friend of ours, and he was like, "Man, these guys are hassling my friends. Fuck those guys." And he went out there, got security, and kicked those two kids out. He's like, "Fuck you guys! Like, I'm trying to enjoy myself, and you're harshing my buzz." And he
That's awesome.
play one more song. We're like, all right. And so we played another song for him. And that's when it was. Once we got on a big stage, that's when the elite hecklers came out. We're like, okay. And then that's when the crossover of like, I only listen to this genre started becoming a thing. But on that Empiricon tour, the fact that it was metalcore, deathcore, and progressive metal, it was cool. All the fans dug it. We didn't get any hate on that tour. None of the other bands got any hate.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's hard sometimes. You never know what you're going to get with people that are into like stuff that, you know, you just wouldn't necessarily line up next to each other. So that's really awesome.
It's a fest. I think it's cool. I think when it's a tour, people get particular.
Yeah. So I was actually looking through the I Declare War dates that I have written down, and I don't think that I Declare War played a show with you guys until we did that tour in June of 2012.
Darkness Rises tour?
Yeah. Death Metal Rises. Yeah.
Oh, Death Metal Rises. That's what it was. Yeah.
And that really surprised me because it seemed like, you know, we had been offered that tour with you guys at really early on, but I didn't see any, you know, we opened every single show in Seattle. It blew my mind that we never crossed paths with you guys until that tour. But I know that we knew you, so I was wondering if you remember how you met us, or if you remember...
Come out to shows when we came to the Pacific Northwest?
I mean, absolutely. You know, we'd be at shows to see other bands that we were friends with, so I'm sure we just kind of... Probably Studio 7 or something, or El Corazon, somewhere along the way. We just kind of randomly met up or something, but I can't think of a time that we actually, like, met. I just kind of knew that we knew who each other were.
We must have crossed paths. We must have played shows together. I was pointing at, we played Metal Fest together. I don't know if it was that tour, but I remember we played a Metal Fest together.
That one may have been after my time.
I don't remember when I met you. I do remember we did the tour, and I do remember when I first joined the band, and I was like, all right, so what should I listen to? And they gave me Amidst the Bloodshed.
Oh, really?
All right, I'll listen to this. It's like these are the bands that you guys like, because remember Faceless, Alkodama, they were just feature bands that like we think are like buzzing right now, and that's my introduction to you guys was Sean or Corey giving me that record, and then I was like, all right, cool. This is different. This is heavy stuff.
That's really interesting. It's kind of hard to not know who each other was when all the MySpace stuff was going on. It's just everywhere. What was your musical background like that got you into metal in the first place?
So I grew up with skate punk because in the SoCal scene, that was what was pretty popular when I was growing up. So the first two bands I started learning music from were like Green Day and Pennywise.
Mm-hmm.
But then the transition to metal was probably the radio because they always played Metallica. And then, of course, someone's always like, oh, I'll show you something heavier. First onset was probably grunge on the radio, and then hair metal on the radio. So like Bush and then Guns N' Roses and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains. But then I remember a friend of mine giving me his CD booklet, going like, "You got to listen to these things. This is like up your speed." And I remember the first CD was Megadeth. It was Countdown to Extinction, and I put that on, and I was like, "What the fuck? I've never heard this fucking fast." And that was the thrash moment. But then there's a friend of mine in my chemistry class in high school who was playing the guitar, and he was really fast, and he's just like, "I got something better for you." And then that's when he introduced me to Racer X and In Flames. So
nice,
melodic and heavy.
Then it became riffs.
Yeah, and I was just like, that was like the metal. So I was like, I was already listening to punk, then thrash, and then it started splintering after that. Then every musician I met was like, "This is faster, this is heavier, this is more thought provoking." So.
Totally.
I had been listening to an interview with you on History of Heavy Metal podcast, I think it was called Heavy Metal History, and I was laughing because you were kind of telling some of that stuff, and I think it's really funny that guys our age we all have that same, everybody lugged around a CD book, and when you'd go to your friends' houses and like flip through them and steal all the CDs and rip the ones you wanted. So I was actually going to ask you about other influential albums along with that Megadeth album, and because you guys were talking about Death, I think you had said you listened to them like backwards.
Yeah, so I was in a band in high school, and then after I graduated high school, myself and the other guitar player that were seniors, because there were 2 seniors and 2 sophomores, and we started the band when I was a sophomore, but like, so we graduated high school, we left. Then I joined a band in 2003, the whole thing of like all that of like learning everyone's particular stuff. But those members from that first band ended up continuing on to keep playing music, converting the garage into a studio. They made it was like a 3-car garage. So the 2-car garage was the practice space, and the 1 car was the studio. And I got a call from one of them, and I think it was the drummer. My buddy Scott goes, "Hey, I'm recording this thrash band. Their drummer sucks. I'm gonna track drums. They asked me to join, but their bassist kind of sucks. I told him I know a guy. Can you come in and track this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so then I learned it, and then I talked to the vocalist at the time. I was like, just to help me out, like, what's some influences? And the obvious ones of like Iron Maiden, you know. But then he's like, "You should listen to Death." I was like, "I've never heard of them." And so he gave me the Sound of Perseverance. And that's what I was like, okay. And so then I was like learning it and then trying to write bass lines like that. And then I realized this is really good shit. And then bought the record before that, and then the record before that, until I got to the first one. So I was like, what the, like, yeah. So I learned about him after he had died and all that stuff, and then went backwards.
I was just looking at that Whitechapel Carnifex Rings of Saturn poster right behind you. I thought it was the Death Metal Rises on your other side. There you go. Yeah.
No, I have that one somewhere.
I see that one behind you, the Bone Crusher Fest in Europe. That one was with...
We did like 3 of them, and I think there was 4 of them. So we opened one up.
There was one that you did that was you headlining with Beneath the Massacre, and then Within the Ruins, Molotov Solution, and Betraying the Martyrs.
That was the 3rd one.
So I Declare War was actually originally going to do that in place of Molotov Solution. I don't know where things changed, but we weren't able to secure time off of work or whatever, since we were kind of fluctuating back and forth in between bands and jobs at the time. So I was just kind of curious if you remember that tour at all, and how it went.
Yeah, that was fucking great. We did 2 Bone Crushers before, working our way up from opening to like middle, and then we were asked to headline. The train was put on because they were just starting out. I wouldn't say just starting out, but they were just starting to make traction, and so that was their first opening for that big kind of tour. But we put our friends on it. It's like, They're like, oh, you guys are all booked by the same booking agent. This is awesome. It's all. We love Beneath the Massacre. We were bros with those guys, and we wanted to tour with them more. And then Molotov, we had known from back in the day. So we headlined that tour. We put all the bands on one bus to save money. Shared a back line.
Ooh.
We already knew everybody. That way we could make some money. And it was just a party. We just partied all the whole time, and everyone got along. So setting up was very lax and easy. No one had to do the time stuff and whip anybody into shape. We were just kind of just like, everyone knew the pecking order, and we just got along, and it was super easy. And we did well.
That's awesome. Did you rotate with Beneath the Massacre? Did you?
We closed. Yeah,
you closed.
There was like here's like the thing that we walk away from that tour was that Elliot was on medication from something. I think he hurt his shoulder, but that might have been later. He was on some medication, so he couldn't drink. And at the time, they were getting a bottle of Jaeger every night. And was kind of like, we're going to wait. We're not going to party without him. And so they were hoarding their bottles. And then finally, he was off the medication. He's like, give me 3 days. 3 days later, he's like, I'm ready to party. And they just popped these bottles of Jaeger. No one got any sleep that night. Because it was just, as soon as a bottle was done, another one. It got so bad. I called it crowd surfing, like, because they had these benches on the bottom lounge of the bus.
I was going to say, how did you fit? This is 20 people.
Well, but Trang was in a van. They were
okay.
So it was just us 4 bands. And at the time, we didn't really have any crew except the sound.
But still, that's a lot of people for one bus.
I had been watching a Bus Invaders video that had you guys on it when you were sharing a bus with Despised Icon. They built some extra bunks in the back, so it was like a 15 instead of a 12 or something.
Yeah, they put they got rid of the back lounge and put some more bunks back there.
Wow.
I think it was a 9-bunk bus plus 2, so it was 11. They would just fold up everything in the back, and that way so people could chill during the day. There was like these 2 tablets that would come down with the mattresses, and then 2 people slept back there.
Wow.
So how is that, like, when you play these shows every day, and then you guys kind of travel in a way that you kind of bring the party back to the bus? Like, does that ever get tough when you guys get like tired or burned out, or is it just like good times the whole time?
Yeah, the bus actually provides us respite. So like, if you don't want to party, you just go to your bunk. And luckily, we've never had issues where it's like, oh, someone's so fucking loud, you gotta shut the fuck up. Somehow it doesn't. No one really disturbs anybody. It's only when like maybe someone's trying to cook something, and then people are like going to and from the bathroom or to bunk alley.
Yeah, I think the bus there's a thing with it that's like everyone knows they're paying for it, and it's like an expense, and they know it's kind of a luxury, and so they all want respect, and so they give everyone the same amount of respect. And I found the same thing, that buses were always very kind of respectful, and everyone had their own little space.
Yeah, it was a privilege, so we didn't want to ruin it. We're celebrating it. We barely toured buses anyways.
I don't know. I was just looking at some of these old pictures from that tour that we were doing. I was really shocked when I texted you and asked if you were available, because I saw this photo of you that you had just finished tracking, and I thought, oh, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe he'll have time. I'll go check his tour dates. And I looked and I'm like, oh, he's leaving in like 2 weeks. There's no way he'll have time for this. Ha ha ha. And then you text back, fuck yeah, let's do it. Again, nicest guy in metal.
It's like, as soon as I was done tracking, I was like, I'm free of responsibility. I just have to rehearse the set. That's like 45 minutes, 55 minutes at the most.
Right.
That's no big deal. And then I can goof off and fuck off, play video games or practice guitar. And then a buddy of mine, he runs a brewery, and he was just like, I need help canning, because it's like an easy thing, but when you're by yourself, there's 4 steps, and if you can split it up. And I was like, I can finally come hang out. I can hang out and bullshit and help you do this thing, this totally menial task, and drink well, and catch up. But I did yesterday, so I was like, oh.
Nice.
He said something about like maybe 36 cases of cans.
Wow.
Yeah. But he's got it like dialed in. I just had to like wipe the beer off and then put them all in little boxes. And then,
Is that what you're drinking right now?
yeah, it's a simple machine in Arizona. I just had to put them in cases and then pile the cases up to the sticker guy. And then that guy, so, like there's a guy prepping the can guy, the guy filling it, and then I'm the guy getting the beer off the can. So, cool. This is something to do, like after slaving away over these tracks for like 10 or us for a year now. Yeah.
Wow. How long was the recording session?
I was there for 8 days, and I feel like I tracked for 4.
Okay.
1 day was tone, 2 were travel days.
Where's Sukoff at?
He's in Florida, Sanford, Florida,
Oh, okay.
just north of Orlando.
You usually work with him, right?
Yeah, we've been working with him since Until I Feel Nothing. We tracked in San Diego and sent it to him. And then, so we've done, I want to say 4 records. We did a record where Slow Death, where we tracked with him and Mark Lewis mixed it. Then we did World War X, where he actually engineered, tracked, and mixed,
So he knows you guys pretty well then.
Yeah. So when we're like, hey, we want to track drums with you, he's like, I want to track it all. We're like, all right. I want all of it. I think only Scott didn't track with him.
Corey, he's kind of a face for the band, I would say. I mean, I would say everyone's pretty recognizable, to be honest. Though you have had a rotating guitar member for quite some time. You've been a pretty stable lineup, I've known everyone that's in it now is everyone that I toured with, other than the new guitar player. What's the deal with the rotating guitar player, I guess?
Yeah, I think something always comes to a head with those guys. So I'm technically the 3rd bassist, and Corey joined 2006, and he's been the rhythm guitar player since. But Sean and Scott started the band, so they're the mainstays.
Okay.
What ends up happening is like personal life. It's got to be personal, like you were talking about, working a job and having to be picked tours. We have taken hiatuses, I think, 2 times now, where the first one, we took one and the guitar player had stuff, Ryan at the time, had stuff at home that he had to deal with. And then once we picked it back up, he wasn't available. And then the last guitar player who you met, I want to say, right? No, you toured with Ryan.
I was with Ryan. No,
you were teching.
Actually, no, yeah, I think I toured with Jordan.
Yeah. When you were teching for Whitechapel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And with Devil Driver tour.
Yes.
So
that's right.
And that was the same thing. We were taking a big long break, and Neil we met through he's a mutual friend of Scott's. Him and their wives are friends, and Neil was in Devil Driver after that tour we did. He joined after that.
What kind of stuff do you do outside well, actually, let me back up. Have you always been a bass player? What got you into playing bass?
Well, so I haven't always been a bass player. I joined. I don't know if you guys had this in 6th grade. Did you have elective classes in elementary school?
No.
But did you have elective classes in middle school?
Yes.
So what'd you pick for your elective classes?
I remember taking a speech class that I really liked, and I think that kind of led to a lot of like my blogging and this podcast and stuff because I really liked it.
Did you take an elective class?
I guess the only elective I took in elementary school was I took some music classes. I took a violin class for a little while.
That's what I had, music. It said music, and I was like, "Oh, concert band, I'll do it." I don't know why, I just picked it. I was like, "That's something to do," and then I did it. So it became marching band, concert band, and I did that from 6th grade to 12th grade.
What did you do in marching band?
I played tuba at first because no one. Oh, I played trombone at first.
Oh wow!
But then there was no tuba player, and so you want to play tuba? But I was a guy, I was so tiny. But I did it. And I marched with everything. So I played.
That's awesome.
The sousaphone for marching. I played trombone first, played tuba, joined high school. The tuba player in high school was like, I'm the only tuba player. I was like, fucking have it, dude. I don't give a Then I found out there's a jazz band. And so then I played baritone in marching, concert, and trombone for jazz band. And then eventually a band needed a bass player. And they're like, you already play bass clap.
You're already on the low end. You're familiar with this frequency.
They're like, it was 2 guitar players. I wanted to play drums. And then they're like, there's a bass right there. Just play that. And I was like,
That seems to be the way with bass players so often, is they just kind of fall into it and they're just kind of the token bass player a lot of the time. Do you enjoy it?
yeah, I mean, I've always been in a band because of it. Like I said, I grew up on punk, but all the metal bands needed a bass player. So I was always in a band.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever wish it were more kind of central to the sound? Do you ever wish you were kind of more like?
Yeah. I mean, I guess in the terms of like a band I was in, I wish it was more, I had more wiggle room, because the band I'm in now, or I have been, you hear it. It's just a smattering of like, it's the guitars, the vocals, and the drums.
Mhm.
So high demand of the listener. Like we're at the forefront. Sean's
Yeah.
blasting over everything. Scott's
Right.
yelling over everything, and the guitars are just tremming and and just buzzsawing over everything. It's like, well, I got to lay back, and then when there's those moments, I can open up.
You got your moments to shine.
The genre I'm in, it's like I got to lay back. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Totally. What were you gonna say, Curt?
I was just gonna say that I always appreciate, like something that I appreciate about bass players is that when you want, a lot of times when you want to be, a singer or a guitarist, you're kind of, I think you could be looking to be the center of attention. But with playing bass, one of the first things you have to do is kind of learn to work with the other people, and you're part of a unit. And I think that I've just always appreciated that about bass players. And I think that one of the most kind of unfortunate things, I guess, about bass is that a lot of times, the best thing about bass is when you're not really sticking out. Like when you're doing your best, you're being a part of a rhythm section. And a lot of times when you think a guitar has like a really cool sound or tone, you're hearing the bass, you just don't know that it's not the guitar. And so I've always just appreciated that bassists are able to take that in stride.
When I wrote music in high school and recorded it by myself and wrote drums for it and stuff, I never wrote bass parts, because in my mind I was just like, oh, it's just about guitars and drums. That's all that people hear. And so there were never any bass parts to it. And then it took me, I don't even know how much longer until I started getting into like dance music. And I was like, man, bass is cool. And then and then I went back and started listening to like all the bass parts of all these metal albums that I had just been like not paying attention to. And I'm like, man, I've been missing out for so long. Like, bass is awesome. How does Carnifex, as far as like a creative force, is everyone pretty equally involved as far as, what's written?
I always say that Sean and Scott are like the main producers of the band.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them have kind of like the big, they shape all the songs. So no matter what, when Corey's writing, and in this case Neil wrote like 19 songs worth of material.
Wow.
At the end of the day, Sean and Scott are taking all that stuff and putting it through their filter of like what they think fits the band. And
Mm-hmm.
then he's writing the music. Like he's got 2 folders. So he's got the folder of stuff that he's like, I think this is stuff that fits the band. But he's also got a folder of like, this is just stuff I'm writing. And then Sean then starts writing to it. And Corey does the same thing. He'll write off that stuff, but at the same time he's writing stuff himself. And then that goes again through the filter. And then after that, then the songs come back, and we're like, they go, this is what we think a song should sound like. And then we have our say of like, hey, this part should be played longer, or this part should be played slower, this part should be cut. These drums should be more focused on this, stuff like that. And then there's like even like little nuanced stuff of like, hey, what if you play the riff this way? What if you focus on this progression? What if the endings are like this, these tails or these transitions? That then it starts getting more specific. But
Right.
beginning, it's Scott and Sean picking apart everything, with Sean writing to that stuff like, this is what we think the song, like this is what we think these should sound.
Kind of a vision for it.
And usually Scott comes up with a concept for what the record's going to be about.
Right.
And he'll tell us, and then we start seeing the shape of the lyrics, and the song titles start coming out later.
I was going to ask about the kind of theme stuff. When Scott does that stuff, is it kind of that's Scott's part, so that's what Scott does? Or does he kind of run it by you guys and like kind of get your approval with it too?
I don't know if he's running it to us to get approval. It's definitely like, we really don't touch the lyrics or the lyrical themes, but he does kind of, I guess, present it in a way just to hear it, like what we think, to gauge our excitement, I guess. If
Right.
we're not excited about it, maybe he's going to tone it down. Definitely like, hey, this is what I'm excited about. And this is what I want to vocalize about, and then see like what we think. And I don't think he does it in a group setting of like, hey guys, I get the text individually or the phone call.
Sure.
So I think he hits us all individually to gauge us individually to see if enough of us are probably stoked on it that he goes, okay, I'm going to continue. It never feels like he's just going to do it just to do it.
Just on his own. That's cool.
But he's mainly that. It's his platform to say what he wants to say. You know, like he's not really saying anything that's gonna be whoa, wait, take a step back. I don't want you represent myself, but
Yeah.
it's really. But at the end of the day, it's like it's the band overall, what he thinks the band should be focusing on saying.
Well, I've just got a couple other questions for you that I think are just kind of might be quicker responses. I don't know how much Curt has.
Rapid fire. Well, I want to ask you guys questions because this feels too one-sided.
I'd be happy to answer some. But let's see. I guess we talked about this a little bit earlier, but more specifically, is there a tour that you can recall that you just felt that we don't fit on this tour? We are just not the right band for this audience, and you just kind of felt like maybe we shouldn't have taken this one.
Because the knee-jerk one would be Obituary Unleashed, but I had fun on that tour because those were bands I wanted to see. I never heard of Unleashed at that point. I knew who Obituary was. I was reading a stupid heavy metal history book at that time. I think it was called Choosing Death. So it's a history.
I have that book.
Yeah, Obituary is fucking in it, man. And so I'm like, I'm touring with death metal history right now. And I had Trevor sign it, and he was like, he looked pissed. He was like, I'm old, you know, but the whole tour he was cool. They were all cool to us. So it's like, yeah, the fans didn't like us. Their fans didn't like us, but they're like older dude type fans. Like I remember a bearded guy in New York in a tie-dye shirt gave us a thumbs up after our set. I was like, yeah, he's not an elitist. He gets it. He wants brutal heavy shit. I guess at the time we were probably like, we don't fit in. But afterwards, it's like, we had fun. We played the cool shows, cool crowds. What tour didn't we fit on? I don't know. Oh, Fintroll. Fintroll was the tour we didn't fit on. That definitely was it. Fintroll Warbringer. We did 2 weeks with them. That was the one that we stuck out.
What kind of venues were those?
You ever heard of the Ballroom in Chicago?
No.
Some mafia bar on the outskirts of Chicago. Played, and there's like pictures of like Black Sabbath playing there with a whole back line of triple stack guitar cabinets.
How big?
It was big. It was a big place. But we think it was a front for like money laundering. There was not that many people. But yeah, we were playing to people with like the whole paint like roots and stuff all across the bear chest.
Right.
Folk metal people that they didn't want to hear us. But then there's also the thrash kids wearing the retro bullet belts and the high tops. They didn't want to see us. They didn't want to see Fintroll. You know, it was like so bizarre.
Weird.
And there's us opening it. We're like, what the fuck? We didn't fit on that. And it was a weird bill. Fintroll, Warbringer, and us.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Oh man.
What was that in support of?
It was disease. No, the hell chose me? Maybe it was disease still. But I know Warbringer was on War Without End, or I think that's the record.
I'm actually looking at your Wikipedia right now, and according to that, Fintroll and Warbringer was Disease and the Poison.
Yeah.
So that would have been 2008, 2009-ish, probably.
That'd be 2000. Maybe it was 2008. So that way, it was probably before Obituary and Unleashed. So like the first real tour was Obituary and Unleashed, but Fintroll was to get us from another tour. Because that was a full tour and it ended in North County, San Diego. Which was cool because we played some shows where we saw. I remember Scott like coming up to me at the San Marcos show, going, "Oh my god, we're gonna get heckled again!" And I look over and I was like, "Oh, I know those two guys," and they had the Fintroll paint, and I was like, "Oh, they listen to us, but they're more excited to see Fintroll."
They're cool.
I was like, "We're gonna be fine."
I'm curious because you were talking about playing video games. Now that you're done tracking, I love video games. What do you play?
I can't stop playing Destiny.
Cool.
So I'm still ripping on Destiny 2. Like I was trying to do dailies earlier, but I just played GoldenEye because it dropped out.
It sure did.
I immediately went after all those time trials, man. I had a blast. Well, what do you guys play on? PC, PlayStation, or Xbox?
Switch.
Oh hell yeah! You got
I
GoldenEye, then you can play it.
Yeah, I play Switch and I have a Series S, but I don't play much. I pretty much have an Xbox just so it can be a Fallout machine, and then I play Switch. Like,
I bought Fallout 4, the bundle for Xbox One.
Yeah.
And I played the shit out of that game.
Don't get Curt started on Fallout.
This is a metal podcast. I gotta chill. Awesome. Since I'm now trying to get back into / listen to all Carnifex's albums, is there an album that you have a stronger attachment to than other ones? Like, do you have a favorite album you've made with your band?
Yeah, for me personally, it's Until I Feel Nothing because that's like the last record I really wrote riffs on. And that was like the transition for the Blackened part. Because I remember talking to Scott he's like, I listen to black metal. I was like, hey, I do too. Why don't we implement those kind of things in the band? Because at the time, deathcore was really metalcore-ish. So a lot of the melodic stuff was too happy for my liking. I was like, dude, black metal has all the cool melodic elements. Because at the time, it was like either death metal or melodic death metal or metalcore. I was like, dude, black metal has all, like we were geeking out. We both thought black metal has very catchy melodic elements that we can implement, but it just sounds evil versus the other stuff just sounds happy and like they're both catchy. And so and at the time we did Hell Chose Me, which was more in the death metal approach because we were like, okay, what do we listen to? Death and Cannibal Corpse. Let's throw that shit in there. And then that was the first turn for that Black and Deathcore. We wrote those elements into it. So 3 of the songs on there have that first step into that for us. And a bunch of those riffs of mine were on there. And I was like, that's it. But I haven't written as much like that since. But that's for me like my favorite contribution to the band.
Awesome.
That was kind of the tough part. So do you remember Victory Records when they decided to take all the merch rights away from all their bands?
I remember some sort of Victory controversy, but I don't remember all the details about it.
we found out when we signed our contract, we didn't know it at the time, but I think we signed the deal memo. That's the other thing. We didn't read the full contracts, but they were really smart about, hey, we are printing in-house. We're going to do everything in-house. And so we had to print our merch through Victory. And then Victory was like, we're going to have our own online store. And they thought they could do it globally and that everyone would buy merch from Chicago worldwide. And they're going to ship worldwide from Chicago. And they ended up making merch stores online that were tricking people into going to the Victory Records site, where it was amirmerch.com, carnifexmerch.com. They made a merch.com for every band on the roster.
And it just redirected.
And then when you went to the shopping cart, it was really, you were shopping at victoryrecords.com and you'd see the full web address. So it was just a spoof. And they made it so that we couldn't be on Empiricon, which was in Europe. And then they made it so that we had our own HTML site where we would put our quantities of our leftover tour merch, and our buddy David, our first merch guy, had the scripts on there where it was a live quantity where if we put 12 on there, as soon as the 12 were sold, then it wouldn't sell anymore. And we would drop ship it on tour or at home in manila envelopes and then go to the post office and mail the stuff off. We couldn't even do that with Victory.
Wow.
Tours on Until Feel Nothing got really small to the point where we're like, we can't make money when we're off the road. We can't even make money when we're on tour because we were paying so much money to Victory for this merch. And we were like in debt, like
That's
to the point
crazy.
where we're done. We got to take a break. We can't. This is so ridiculous. But we did a handful of tours on that were pretty cool. I mean, the one we did with you guys, we went to Europe for a headliner of the Summerfest, which was awesome. We got to play with I want to say it was that one. We played some crazy Eastern European countries. We played. I remember playing like a coffee shop that was like really long, and it was like daylight. Like for some reason we were so far out there, it was still daylight by the time we went online on stage. This is bizarre, but and we did it as a 4-piece. Like that was a flight where Brian didn't make it. Like he didn't show up, and he was telling us he didn't show up. And so Corey and I are like on the first day figuring out like, all right, you're gonna play these harmonies, and I'm not gonna play the bass riff. I'll play the guitar riff, and then I'll do the trade-offs for these songs because it was before we had the backing tracks.
Oh
We
yeah.
were making it work of like, where should the focus be? Where should the harmonies definitely be there? Where should I lay back or fill up? And that was kind of cool. But
Do you guys play to a click now?
yeah, I think after that we started playing. Sean played to a click for a long time, probably around then. But that's the first iteration of like after that. Like, we need to get this stuff on something.
So you guys have a lot of like symphonic stuff and added additional parts now. I mean, that's kind of the evolution, the black metal type stuff that you were talking about. So that a lot of that kind of requires it to be on a click.
Yeah, because we got to be in time with that stuff.
Mhm.
There's even like some if both guitar players go to play a lead, there's like a rhythm track, disembodied rhythm track. Sometimes there's some double parts on the solo, which I keep like nudging Corey, like, you got to play those. Harmonize with solos. Yeah, but that was cut short. That touring cycle got cut short because of the bullshit with Victory.
Man, that's crazy. I hadn't even thought about what had gone on with them since they just kind of faded out of existence in my mind. I didn't even.
I did remember Sudom.
Oh, that's right.
That's how Awesome Within the Ruins got off, because they got sued.
Okay.
We let our option lapse, and then we're like, "Can we go?" And they're like, "We were busy." We're like, "All right, we're going."
See ya.
Within the Ruins told us like, "Hey, we're off." We're like, "Let's get off. We gotta go. We gotta go now." They got off first, and then we got off. So.
How'd you end up with Nuclear Blast?
So as soon as we were finding out that Within the Ruins was going to get off, Scott talked to our manager at the time to field offers from other agents to see if there was any interest. Metal Blade, at the time it was Good Fight, and Central Media and Nuclear Blast had meetings. And so Scott flew to New York and in LA, or he drove to LA, but he flew to New York. And then I think it came down to Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast. Metal Blade was like, we'll handle the US distribution. Nuclear Blast will handle the rest. And we're like, why not just have it under Nuclear Blast then? And then we counter offered to them, just give us a little more money, and you get the whole damn thing. We're like, fine. And we did it. And then that was cool. We're like, okay, they actually said they would meet those demands. And we said, yeah. And then we've been with them for records now and 2 EPs.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a while.
Die Without Hope, Slow Death. We did Bury Me and Blasphemy and Curse demo, and then Graveside, and then now this next one.
Nice.
Or we did 2 EPs. Or maybe 1 EP and 1 single. Or 2 singles. Yeah.
It's really hard to keep track.
It's all digital now. We can't.
Yeah.
The whole pre-order push. We can't do that anymore.
Right.
The whole like the song and then the record's out. We now have to release song after song after song.
Yeah, that's like the new sleep token.
Or we could go the route that a lot of the pop artists use, like just release singles. Oh, isn't that what Falling Reverse does now? They just do singles. There's no point in writing a whole record. Just write a hit song. That's the next song and put in rotation.
Wow.
Kind of a waste of energy to write 10 songs.
Totally.
Only be able to play 1 new song on tour.
And only one of them will show up on all those TikToks. And
we try to rotate every tour a song to encourage people to come to the next tour.
Mm-hmm.
This next tour, we're going to play 1. Then the tour after that, we're going to cycle in another new song. So that way it's like, yeah, you might have just seen us 2-3 months ago, but you're not going to hear that song.
Yeah, it'll be a different set.
Yeah, we're playing 1 new song.
Nice.
I think it's called Torn in 2.
Sweet. Let's see. I don't think you're coming to Seattle, so but I see the tour starts in Phoenix.
I know. I have to go to San Diego to come back. So I'm traveling as light as possible. I'm going with a backpack and a bass. I'm coming back and picking up like all my funk stuff. And,
yeah. That's always a bummer.
But we signed off on it when it said Pacific Northwest. We're like, yeah. And then we didn't see it. We're like, no. That's our scene. Dude, we used to play Spokane all the time.
Spokane was great, man.
Yeah, that was and Tacoma. That was our in Bend. Those were the 3 places we could carve through early on.
That's cool that you played Tacoma.
Yeah,
Ray's Golden Lion. I Declare War is like
Ray's Golden Lion was in Richland. That was out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tacoma probably would have been Hell's Kitchen. Does that sound familiar?
That's probably before my time then. My guys played that.
Yeah, maybe. Ray's Golden Lion was out in Richland. That's out in the middle of the state, just kind of over the pass. That's a different part of Washington for sure.
It isn't a venue; it's a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Levy hooked us up, and
oh yeah, Ryan.
Yeah. That we played all those old venues, and we played with Skies Burn Black. Remember that band?
Mm-hmm.
They were our go-to opener every time we were in the area.
That's sweet. Well, you just got done finishing recording. About to head out on this tour with Chelsea Grin. Anything else going on with you?
So we have 2 more tours lined up for the rest of the year. We have a U.S. tour we're going to headline that's going to be announced later. We're still booking the bands and we're still vetting the bands. Then we're going to go to Europe on another headliner. What we try to do now is when we headline the States, we try to see if we can get bands to commit to both. So that way, it's like a full thing of like, hey, here's this lineup, fire lineup. We're gonna do it the States and we're gonna do it here. But we can't get everyone to commit. As long as we can get the direct support to commit, that's worth it. But
yeah,
it kind of worked out this way. We just did that tour last year with Chelsea Grin at the end of the year. And on that tour, they're like, dude, we got this headliner that we're being asked pressured to get someone. You guys should do it. And we're like, yeah, we'll totally do it. We haven't toured you guys since Jason was in the band, you know? It's a long time ago. And so it was cool where it's like sometimes it's hard to be friends when business gets in the way. The manager's always going to be talking in their ears, you know? It's going to best fit them. But they see the proof in the pudding. Like when we're playing shows, we have a crowd. We're pretty professional on and off the stage. We got along, and we were telling them like, you guys want to save money? We all have families and stuff. Some of us have mortgages, you know. we gotta save money in a way. And it's like, hey, let's do this tour. Like, you can pay us what we want, and then we'll cut the corners the other way. We're like, you guys bring the whole production. We'll split crew. We can do the tour in the van to help split costs, you know. And then when we do the headliner, then we got to do a bandwagon.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not closing, so we can get away with getting hotels and being legal about our driving. But then when we headline, it's like we got to get a driver because we're there first. We're going to be leaving last. You're talking about a party afterwards. I'm going to go to bed. Maybe I'll drink a couple beers afterwards, but it's work, man. 12-hour days. Evan knows. You're the first one in the building, dude. You're the first one walking in, sussing out where to put your gear, who's going to help you, talking to the staff.
Yep. Yeah, they're long days.
Closing the trailer while the other people are up there going, yuck, 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 yuck. Yeah. You know the grind, you know.
Very well.
But have you ever toured, Curt, or have you been around anybody that's like, have you followed someone throughout the night of watching them work?
Just Evan. I've never been in like any professional type of band, but when Evan was in I Declare War, I would hang out with him whenever I got a chance to, and I got to see him on one tour when he was teching for Whitechapel. So that was pretty cool to just like, you know, see something different, you know.
That always makes me excited. Like we didn't get to hang out a lot. We did that one tour, but then seeing you again in the Whitechapel camp, that kind of shit gets me so excited. I'm like, I get to hang out with him again.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, I felt the same way. It's always, that's the best thing about touring is making these random little friendships that you just suddenly, oh, we're back together again. Great.
You can make or break a tour, you know.
Absolutely.
Tour, watch Whitechapel complain and Devil Driver complain. But we were all in that shit together, and then you end up in the camps, you know. So, and then seeing you, like, I was like, oh, we get to hang out. Like, we're gonna be in the same venue, just chilling out, cracking jokes, and finding food, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a fun tour. Revocation.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I ever took them seriously because they were kind of like the jokey band at first. Remember those music videos they put out at first?
No.
So I remember they made like those music videos that were kind of like supposed to be funny. So I was kind of like, oh, they're a thrash band that thinks that with a sense of humor. And then we toured with them on that tour, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot more thought out stuff going on behind these riffs. And I was sold, and I was watching them every night.
Dave's sick, man.
They were and Bart was cracking me up.
Yeah. Oh, I love that guy.
Have you seen him since with Ash playing drums?
I have maybe.
Yeah. Curt, do you know 3 Inches of Blood?
Not really.
Oh man, they're like old school heavy metal, but from Vancouver, Canada. Their drummer now plays for Revocation, and he fucking rips. He's always ripped, but when he joined, I was like, what? I get to see him again? Like I was just saying, like, get to hang out with you. We did a tour with him, and he's like, it's the weirdest compliment to get, where people are like, I didn't know he could play drums like that. I was like, yeah, he always ripped, but it's just different. He's playing traditional heavy metal to now like progressive heavy metal, you know, technical death metal. It's like, or technical death and thrash or thrash and death metal, you know? You want to get super specific. But it's cool to see him ripping in another band where like people would probably have like not taken him seriously. And he fucking rules. The band's tighter for it.
Weird story about 3 Inches of Blood. I interned at a studio in Seattle after I did my schooling here. I moved to Seattle to do audio production, and part of our schooling was doing an internship, and I got an internship at London Bridge Studios up in I can't remember the exact city it's in now, but when I got there, 3 Inches of Blood was tracking their new record, and Joey Jordison was the producer.
Yeah. Is that the one Silent Killer?
I can't remember. I was there. They were only there a couple days when I was there. But I met 3 Inches of Blood and Joey Jordison, like, just suddenly interning at this studio, and it was just like, holy shit, what am I, like 2 years ago I was like sitting playing guitar on my computer, like just like dreaming about these guys, and now Joey Jordison literally gave me his debit card and his PIN, and I took money out of his account for him.
That's crazy. It's awesome.
Do you have any weird experiences like that with musical heroes or?
Yeah. So we used to be managed by Outer Loop Management. They're based in DC. They're not around anymore, I don't think. And our manager's day-to-day guy is this guy named Nikhil Poddar, and we still worked with him for a long time. When we became self-managed, we're like, all the stuff you were doing for him, continue doing for us. We paid him for that. But he ended up transitioning out, and now he manages Metalocalypse.
Nice.
So because of that, he's just like, hey, I'm going to go to this comedy club. Steve Aggie's going to be there. You guys should come up and hang out. And we went and hang out. And then we realized, oh, it's not just Steve Aggie. It's him playing guitar with Brendan Smalls.
That's sick.
He invites his buddies. So it's comedy and metal. So Scott Ian from Anthrax was there. Played a country song with some other artist, and it's the guitar player, keyboard player. I'm gonna botch it. He's a real big deal. He shreds, and I want to say he was like, it sucks that I don't remember, but yeah, like we got to hang out, and the person I was geeking out on was the bass player from Metalocalypse, and he's in the Aristocrats. Do you know who that is?
Mm-mm.
I want to say Brian Beller. I was geeking out on him. I was like, that's the guy I want to meet and shake hands with.
Mm-hmm.
Walking out in the lobby and seeing all those people was like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm just comfortable knowing he exists, and I get to watch it. I got to watch him. And then people are geeking out on him. And then this Nikhil comes up, starts talking to us, and we're just hanging out. Scott and I are hanging out. And then this woman comes up, starts talking to us, and we're just cracking jokes with her. And then we find out, oh, that's Brendan Small's wife. And then he comes up and starts hanging out. And we're like, oh, now we're just hanging out. So we're not geeking out, and we're just hanging out. I was like, that's cool. I got to hang. Like, I'm watching the guy I want to talk to, and then another guy walks up. I'm like, oh, we're just hanging out. This is cool. Like, it's no pretentiousness. Just we're just musicians hanging out in LA. This is crazy. You're a big deal. I watched 2 of your shows, and I've seen you play live, and now I saw you play live at Crack Jokes. This is crazy. So that's like what it was. It was like knowing somebody who's doing stuff, and then just going to hang out with him, and then meeting these other people. So this is great.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like the whole proximity thing.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we wouldn't have gone anywhere if we hadn't have made friends with Whitechapel. We met them on a random show in Arizona, and then just kind of became friends with them. And that's where all of our stuff started, because we did the same artery management with them and all that same kind of stuff. So yeah, totally.
Did you guys get hooked up with Red Bull when you signed to Artery?
No. Not that I can remember.
Yeah, they started shipping us crates of Red Bull, or packs of Red Bull. I remember. And we built up a tolerance. We're like, this won't do anymore. That was like the artery thing. Like they were like, for some reason, you signed an artery, you were endorsed by Red Bull.
Weird. We got Dunlop guitar strings. I remember that. And picks.
At least you got something, you know?
I got bags of them left. I've been trying to decide what to do with them.
I'm going to ask you guys a question then. What's the first concert you went to? And what's the first concert you took yourself to?
The first concert I took myself to, I think, was just like a VFW. I don't even know if it counts. It was just like a local show when I was in middle school. And my next door neighbor was in one of the bands, and I didn't know that until I showed up. And I thought that was like so fucking cool. No, but the first like real show that I ever went to was Fear Before and Heavy Heavy Low Low and Poison the Well.
Damn, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Heavy Heavy Low Low.
Dude, I fucking love Heavy Heavy Low Low. That's and that's probably why, because I saw them so early on. But
That's cool. Wait, so what? Who took you to that show?
my friend John in high school. That I had two friends that really got me into metal and hardcore, and John was more of a hardcore guy, and Mike was more of a metal guy, and so I went with John, and he's one of those guys that completely disappeared off the face of the planet, and I haven't talked to him in like 15 years. And
Yeah, it happens. I hope it resurfaces.
yeah, me too.
That's a cool lineup, man. I like all those bands. That's sick.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, Evan, your turn.
All right, so first show. I've been going to music pretty much all my life. So I want to say that the first concert that I went to was the live Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show.
Coming out of our shells tour.
That exactly. I know I have a photo of me with one of the turtles somewhere, so that could be considered the start of my concert years. Another one could also be I saw Brooks and Dunn in Reno with my mom. I also saw Garth Brooks, I think, at one point. I was into country with, no, not the same bill. But I was super into country as a kid with my mom, so I was going to shows with her.
It's a good follow up though. Like then the question would be like, what got you into music? So that means your mom, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we used to listen to country and used to listen to the radio. And
What was her go to? Like, what was her that you remember? Like
Garth Brooks and Winona.
Oh shit! All right. Is that the live show that those kids ripped on YouTube and put throwdown music over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the original question. Yeah, I think the first show that I went to by myself was this show called Boarding for Breast Cancer, and it was a breast cancer charity fundraiser show in Lake Tahoe, and it was right after Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory came out, so it was on their kind of main Hybrid Theory touring cycle, and it was Linkin Park, Static X, Cottonmouth Kings, and then this random new metal band called Stereo Mud.
I know Stereo Mud. That's funny.
You know Stereo Mud? That's awesome.
I like that obscure stuff, 90s stuff. Yeah.
We were just talking about Flaw with Cam.
Yeah? That's funny.
Well, I don't know. I think we covered pretty much everything, Fred. You were pretty thorough with everything. Anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to throw out?
I guess the only stuff I got to plug is that we're going to be leaving soon here for our next U.S. tour. We're going to be, it's a co-headline bill, but Chelsea Grin's going to close every night, so we're direct support. It's Chelsea Grin and us, and Left to Suffer, and Of Sulfur. So Of Sulfur, their record just dropped, and we've already toured with both those bands. We've toured with all the bands, but we just recently toured last year with Left to Suffer and Of Sulfur. And we will be releasing a single soon, 22, and we're going to play that song on this next tour. Our record, we just finished tracking. We are currently waiting for the mixes, so we'll let you know how they start sounding, and we'll have a release date for that soon. Speaking of which, I still have to write my thank yous and send those to Scott. See, with like stuff at home, man, I was like, I was just cleaning the house. I'm like, I got 2 stepkids, so I have a birthday party to get ready for this week.
Oh, wow.
Curt knows how that is.
Yeah, so I was cleaning a room in a common area. So I was like, I'll clean the living room and defurify everything in case someone has allergies, and then clean one of the rooms and make sure all the stuff's all organized while doing laundry. And then after this, I'll probably go make dinner and play some Destiny. So, but I play video games. I don't stream. I keep being told to. I'm thinking like, do you think this is a good idea? I'm gonna post stuff on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I've done YouTube. I do playthroughs of songs for the record. I'm gonna eventually do all of them. So every song, multi-angle will be
nice.
So people can then learn those parts if they want. And I think someone was saying I should stream myself practicing sets.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
I think I should do a stream where I play the set before the tour. We go on tour, I come back, and then do another stream of being like, here's the set again after the tour.
Before and after. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah. It's like, this is me right before I leave. This is me as soon as I finish. You know? It's to show a difference. I think it's just the dexterity, you know. I think I can get away with that. I'm not going to play video games in front of people. That's my time. Right? It's like therapeutic. It's your time. It's what I want to enjoy this. That's my people.
Right on, man. Well, I really appreciate you making the time for us, especially since it was kind of last minute and, you know, but I think this is going to drop right before you leave for that tour. So, yeah, should be out right around then.
Hit me with everything I needed so I can post it so that way everyone knows. And
Yeah. Where can we find you online?
Yeah, I'm Freddie Cal on Instagram, and it might be Calderon Fred on YouTube because they made me change it, but it's originally Doggy Dreads /Doggy Dreads.
Gotcha.
I'll be posting playthroughs on there soon enough.
Sweet. Well, right on, man. Well, I really, really appreciate your time, especially doing this so early on in our career as podcasters. And like I said, nicest dude in metal. So really appreciate your time.
Try to live up to that.
Well, sweet. Thanks, man.
If you guys want to follow Bring the Heavy, you can follow us at Bring the Heavy on Instagram. If you want to follow me, you can find me at CurtCake5K on Instagram and Letterboxd. And where are you on the internet, Evan?
You can find me, like I said earlier, at my Instagram account at IDW Museum. That's where I'm posting my I Declare War memories and Guitar Tech memories with Whitechapel and As I Lay Dying.
All right, we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening.